The Friday Rugby Preview with Stuart Cameron.
Hello and welcome to the Friday Rugby Preview on Rugby Radio, your one-stop guide to the club game in the Borders. And in the show, as always, I'm joined by Dale Clancy, and we'll start with a brief recap of last weekend. In the Premiership, Hawick beat Curry by 35 points to 13, Heriots Blues 53, Jed Forest 20, Mar 48, Kelso 14, and Selkirk 21, Musselburgh 24. In National 1, which was a Border League double-header, Melrose 53, Gala 31. In National 2, it was Berwick 19, Newton Stuart 23, and Peebles 26, Lasswade 27. Peebles losing their unbeaten record there at home at the Guides. In East League 1, Langham 21, Linlithgow 24. In East 2, Hawick Quinns 81, Duns 12, Pennycook 28, Hawick Lindeen 24, and in East League 3, it was Gallow IM 10, Earlston 48. So Dale, the only unbeaten team in the Borders, Earlston, 4 wins now.
Yeah, that was a big turnaround from last season, struggling to, string a lot of good results together. Found it really tough in East League 3 last year, but that's a comprehensive victory against Gallow IM last weekend. A big victory for them and obviously remain unbeaten.
And of course, Peebles lost their record.
Yeah, I think Graham Patterson was slightly disappointed in the nature of the defeat for Peebles. They gave Lasswade a head start at the Gates. It was a deficit that they were unable to claw back for the remainder of the game. And again, just a little bit of ill discipline coming into the Peebles play, which has perhaps hindered them getting back into that game and keeping their 100% record going.
Well, 2 derbies in the Premiership this week, both Border League double-headers. Jed Forest against Hawick is the first one, and Border derbies this season haven't been dull, tight affairs. They've been very high-scoring games. What about this one? Yeah,
they've been quite fluid, haven't they? Yes, going back to the Selkirk Jed game, there was a lot of points in that, and obviously Hawick had a huge victory against Kelso at Mansfield Park after being defeated by Mar on the road, so it was a huge reaction, and from then, Hawick have went from strength to strength. Huge victory for them at the weekend in a game, that is going to have a lot of ramifications in terms of who's going to be getting the home semi-finals in the Premiership. So, big victory for them against Curry, who just were unable to maintain their 100% record as well. But, in the balance of things, you look at this game this weekend, and yes, it's at Riverside Park, but you've got to say that Hawick go into this as favourites. They've got more squad depth. They've, got a bit of confidence and consistency in their team as well. So it's certainly going to be a difficult game for Jed Forest, but I'm sure it's one they'll relish.
Well, we'll hear from Hawick boss Matty Douglas in a second, right after Jed Forest's David Grieve.
So on Saturday, we were up at Heriots again. It was a real Jekyll and Hyde performance. The game couldn't have started any worse for us. We were 10-0 down after, I would say, about 5 minutes. But credit to the boys who got ourselves back in it. We've scored 2 tries, converted one, so it put us in the lead. And, we're pretty comfortable. Heriots scored again, but again, there was no panic. We felt we were in the game. But just before half-time, they scored another try. It was a really soft try, to be fair. And that put Heriots in the front foot. Second half, we just kind of fell to pieces, to be honest with you. We were picking up injuries left, right and centre, and we just couldn't reply. But again, we didn't go completely down. We scored right at the end, so there's another positive for us. This week we've got Hawick. There's no bigger challenge at the moment in club rugby. But we just have to go out there, and we've got an attitude of we've got nothing to lose, and just have a go. And hopefully we can take something for the game.
Yeah, look, we're excited for this weekend and to get back into another Border derby. They're always, a tough battle to play in, and especially heading to Riverside this week. Jed haven't started the season the greatest, but look, any Jed team at home is tough to beat. They're formidable in scoring points, and they'll be looking to get back to winning ways. So for us, we've prepped and the same as any other week, and we've worked hard at training. There's obviously been a real energy and buzz Tuesday, Thursday this week, and it comes down to a big performance last weekend against Curry. I thought against Curry second half is probably some of the best rugby we've played in a long time. I thought we were clinical, we took our opportunities and we starved Curry a ball. And when you do that, you make it tough for teams to score points. And look, heading into half time last week, I was a bit disappointed that we didn't kick on as much as I thought we would after the first 20 minutes and the way we started. But looking back at the game, credit to the players. We defended for at least 15 minutes of the last part of the first half, and we made, I think, around 81, 82 tackles. And when you put that into consideration, the week before at Aki's, the whole game we made 72. So there was a big emphasis on our defence on Saturday, and I say it every week, defences win games. And credit to the players putting a massive shift. And I think we deserved the win at the end, and to grab the bonus point was a massive boost for the players, as the last couple of weeks we struggled to pick bonus points up. So look, we're in a good place heading into this weekend, I think, and the squad's eyes and us as coaches, that win last week shows people outside Hawick what our intentions are this season. And look, we're going to continue to work hard, and we'll put every effort in to ensure that we can achieve our goals this season. So, attention turns to Jed this weekend, and we need to be clinical, and we need to approach this with the right sort of attitude and mentality. And look, we're excited to get back onto the pitch and continue to improve on little areas that we feel we can get better in. So it is a border derby. These sometimes turn into dogfights and they can go down to the wire. But for us, we want to play our own game, and we want to take the game to Jed. So look, we're excited for it. And again, we've got a tough selection ahead of us. A few boys back training this week that were unavailable, so we'll see how boys train and see where we end up. But look, it's great to have as many boys in and around the sessions with 35, 36 boys training Tuesday, Thursday, and we're able to get a quality seconds team out on a Friday night. So for us, we're in a good place, and we head into Saturday excited for it.
Matty Douglas, and before him it was David Grieve. So we certainly think that Jed Forest up against it on this one, particularly the amount of injuries they've got.
Yeah, I've certainly not been making many friends in Hawick and now not Jed this weekend, but it's a game that you've got to look at the league table again, and you've got to say that Hawick have reacted really, really impressively after their defeat against Mar, something they've not been inflicted with for such a long time as a defeat, and they've been able to react really positively. So Matty Douglas will be chuffed to bits in terms of the way that his team has bounced back and been able to steady the ship, and again, Hawick will look at this as just another fixture. They'll try not to let the occasion get to them too much and just take it in their stride, but they're an experienced squad, so I don't expect them to get overwhelmed by the occasion of a border derby at Riverside Park. But it's something that I think that Jed Forest will be feeding off scraps. Hawick are a really consistent and steady team in terms of the way that they play rugby. They've got a really forceful pack. They like to play rugby in the right areas, and they're directed well, with the likes of Kyle Brunton, Lee Armstrong as well at inside centre, who's a kind of replacement for Ethan Riley. Different type of player, but his balance of running and his distribution and game management's really impressive. So Hawick have that to draw on, and Jed Forest will just have to try and stay in the fight for as long as they can and try and make Hawick a bit nervy.
Very different Jed Forest side at the corresponding fixture last year, and of course the Jed Forest actually, I think, nilled Hawick in the second half, but certainly won the second half, and that result effectively meant that Hawick missed out on a Board League final place.
Yeah, Hawick have changed personnel as well, obviously from that game, losing the likes of Hector Patterson, scrum half. He was an influential player for them last year, competing with Gareth Welsh for most of it. But you look at the Jed Forest team as well, the youngs are not there as consistently as have been. I know Lewis came back but now had to withdraw. Have struggled with a lot of injury as well. You see Michael Weekly back in the squad, so obviously brings a lot of experience, but it perhaps does indicate the lack of depth that Jed Forest have at the moment. And I think it's just one of those difficult periods in time for Jed that they're going through, that they've got a lot of young players that they're going to have to try and transition into their senior game now, and it's going to be a difficult league season ahead, but they need to keep fighting, they need to keep together, and keep that good squad mentality. In this game, it takes care of itself. It's a border derby against one of the most informed teams in Scottish rugby, so it's a game that Jed Forrest will try and rise to the occasion, and I'm pretty sure, going off my experience in the past, that I'm sure the supporters will back the men from Riverside as well.
Kelso versus Selkirk, Border Derby number 2. Sesh Henderson of Selkirk is who we're going to hear from, and also Director of Rugby at Kelso, Neil Hinnigan.
We've been working away on our defence from last weekend, another hard away trip up at Mar, and we leaked a lot of points, so last night at training we were working away on how to tighten up again and try and stay in the game for longer periods of time and give ourselves every opportunity to try and win the match or get something out of the game. We're at the moment away from home, we're becoming very quickly out of the match, and going forward we're going to have to combat that. But back at home we obviously will be a bit more confident in being in the match for longer, and obviously Selkirk are in and around where we are in the league at the moment in similar positions, so it'll be a big step forward in the right direction for whoever can win this game. So we're fully aware how important it is. We need to bring a bit more physicality than we did last week, and we need to work on keeping the ball again for longer periods of time and just exerting more pressure. And again, we're just tidying up on set piece. So there's a lot going on at the moment. We've got lots to work on, but overall we feel in a good place, and there's a good mood in the camp. And there was 40 odd boys there training last night and working hard to improve. So we'll see how much improvement we can get this week from last week, and hopefully a similar performance to what we got against Glasgow Hawks a couple of weeks ago, and that would probably give us a good chance of winning the game. But Selkirk are a really good side. They play expansive rugby as well. They want to throw the ball about when they can, and obviously got a good front row, really dominant front row there with Luke Petty, and they're very experienced. So yeah, we've looked at them as well. So yeah, it's going to be a tough match, but one that obviously is a really good one on the calendar to look forward to. And it's been a while since we played Selkirk in a league match, so yeah, we'll certainly enjoy the moment. A big crowd, and I think the lunch is almost sold out as well. So should be a good day at Poinder. On the selection front, we're pretty settled from the last couple of weeks. That's pretty much where we are. There's not many changes at all.
Really disappointed we didn't get a win. 21-12 up, pretty much in control, forwards dominating, opportunities to score, to make it a bonus point. Then we allowed the momentum to drift over to Musselburgh, and they accepted that, and we got ourselves on the back foot when we shouldn't have, and they took advantage of it and scored a couple of late tries. So disappointed. It was a 5-pointer that got away from us. Each week I always say, very quickly we turn around, and now we've got a derby match against Kelso away. Last night, really good turnout at training. Guys, again, it's good to see that they were disappointed, got a reaction, honest analysis session, then a really good hour and 20 minutes session out in the track. So we look forward to this week's game. We need to improve in certain areas, and we will. The guys will, I think we'll all see a reaction this week. Hard shift going to Ponder Park, but it's where we can go and get points if we play in the right areas of the park, and play to our strengths as well, which is through the forwards, but also we've got backs now that can actually they can play rugby. So we're working hard, working really hard, everybody, not just the players but the coaching staff, to to get it right this week, and hopefully come away with points, which is going to be a good local derby to be involved in.
Sesh Henderson from Selkirk, the head coach there, who'll be relishing a visit to Poinder Park, as will Neil Hinnigan, who certainly has been trying to create that fortress at Poinder Park, and he's succeeded, really, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think so far. Kelso have been really good at home. Obviously, they've not tasted defeat too many times as opposed to their opponents this weekend. They've obviously been able to pick up those 2 draws as well. So, Kelso have had a good start to life in the Premiership. You can say this is a game that's probably a lot tighter than the other Border Derby in the Premiership, and it's tighter to call. You do think that Selkirk come into this with a little bit of experience of games at this level, and they again won't get too overawed by the occasion. They'll probably rise to it. So the pressure is almost on Kelso, the home side, because they've played now at home in the Premiership, and it's a great box to tick and they can then move on. But it's a border derby against a team that they're going to be really, really competitive against. This is a really interesting fixture. I'd love to be there and watch it. Obviously, you can't watch every game in Scotland, but it's going to be a real great occasion at Poynter Park. I just think that the feel and the vibe of rugby at Poynter Park over the last 2 years, 3 years perhaps, off the back of COVID, has been one of the biggest turnarounds in border club rugby that I've seen, from where they were previously. So it's going to be a huge occasion when Kelso take on Selkirk.
Well, you won't be there, but Robin Purdy and David Ferguson will be our commentary team for that game, and obviously Rugby Radio between 2:30 and 5 o'clock on Saturday will be coming direct from there as well. There'll be television highlights over the weekend also, in fact, of the gala game against Ayr at Netherdale, which we'll come to very, very shortly. So Kelso 7th, Selkirk 9th at the moment, 1 win each this season from 5 games, but crucially 2 draws for Kelso, which puts them 3 points ahead of the Selkirk at the moment.
Yeah, and I think Kelso have played well at home, and they perhaps go into this comfortable knowing that they're going to be in their familiar surroundings. They can try and make it as difficult for Selkirk as possible. And over the last few years, any team in border rugby or anywhere from Scotland for that matter that have went to Poynter Park have been in a game and they found it really, really hard. And that's the kind of thing that Neil Hinnigan and Bruce McNeil are trying to bring to that Kelso side, is to make them difficult to break down and beat at home, be really stubborn. And then the game's away from home, the pressure's off, it takes care of itself. But, in a border derby, it's a game that Selkirk I think they'll come into this game slightly deflated, because against Musselburgh last weekend, it was a game that they were controlling for the majority of the game that they let slip from little individual errors. The tide of that game turned because of little minute moments that they perhaps just didn't show that experience. And that experience you're going to need at Poynter Park to not let the occasion get on top of you and not get overawed. And you need to be calm. You need to make sure that you're making the right decisions at the right times. And that's perhaps what Selkirk never done at the weekend past.
International 1, Highland against Melrose, the 2 plastic pitch specialists. Head coach for Melrose is the always enthusiastic Ian Chisholm.
There's a lot of really pleasing things with performance against Gala at the weekend. Look, you scored a lot of points, but at the same time we conceded 31. And so we spoke about all week that the things that would keep Gala in the game were our mistakes and our errors, and look, we're playing some really nice rugby, and it's really good to watch. But at the same time, especially with the winter coming and the weather deteriorating, we're going to have to manage our half a lot better than we have been. This weekend, the squad's not going to change an awful lot. We like I said, we need to wait and see who gets through the week, and it is a real slog. Like we went to 10-team leagues, and then we're playing 15, 16 games on the bounce, not including pre-season games and sevens, and for we're not so bad because we've got a big playing squad. But you look at other towns, especially in the borders, with smaller playing squads than we do, and 15, 16 games on the bounce, and to try and stay competitive in that, it's really difficult. And look, if you add the South games into that that were planned at Christmas that are no longer happening, then a lot of our players would be playing 17, 18 games in a row. And we've got Gala again in the Waverley Cup, so the boys will probably get a week or 2 off before we go and play that game. But it's a lot of games to be playing in a row, and we just need to make sure that we're keeping players injury free. We're keeping players. We're stopping them burning out. We need to protect them as well, and where possible use squad rotation. And again, it's really difficult. You want to win, and you want your best squad in the park all the time. But I think you have to be a little bit more pragmatic about selection now, with so many games happening. I think if you front load it and go short term, then you might struggle further down the line, especially when the winter comes and people start to feel a little bit poorer in themselves. And but look, we're looking forward to the weekend. We are actually really excited about the trip up. We're going up and down on the day, and we want to make sure that we put in a performance that backs it up, because we haven't done that yet. Look, we've had a performance, and then we've maybe struggled a wee bit. We've had a good performance, and we've struggled a wee bit. So look, we really want to be disciplined around how we approach the game, disciplined around how we play the game, and then disciplined about how we move into next week and move into Glasgow Accies side, who are surprising a lot of teams. So yeah, excited for the weekend.
Ian Chisholm. Well, Highland have lost once this season, only. Melrose have lost twice. Both teams needing a win to put pressure on Ayr at the top, because already Ayr have a 6-point gap.
Yeah, I think it's a huge game. I think if Melrose lose this, and results go different ways this weekend, they could potentially see themselves, I think, about 12 points behind Ayr, for example. And that might just be a little bit too much to turn round. There is a lot of rugby left to be played, and perhaps looking at last season's table, it doesn't give you a full picture of it because the leagues were almost inflated. So, they had more games in it, but I think that, this is going to be round 6. We've only got then another 3 games until we reach the turn. So we're almost at the halfway stage of the season. So, if you're 12 points behind a side like Ayr, who are really, really consistent, they're able to see out games. They were tested against Watsonians last weekend, but just able to just go through the gear, step it up a notch. I just think that Melrose can ill afford to not pick up a victory on the road this weekend.
Well, talking of Ayr, they're at Netherdale against Gala, another big game. Gala hard to beat at home, both wins this season coming at Netherdale, and now they welcome unbeaten Ayr. The thoughts of Director of Rugby of Gala, Ewan Swinton.
Our game last week against Melrose was disappointing for us. We had been more hopeful of doing much better than we did. The side just did not play to their full potential. We probably got what we deserved out of the game, bonus point for the 4 tries, but we certainly had expected and hoped for better from last weekend. Melrose were just that bit stronger. It was really nice to see the return of Douglas Crawford after such a long absence. He's both a lovely lad and a very, very good scrum half, and I think he perhaps was the difference between the sides on Saturday. So yeah, disappointed in that. However, not downhearted. We know that we can do much better, and the boys will. So on Saturday we have a huge challenge coming down the road in the shape of Ayr. We're led to expect that we're going to meet a thoroughly professional organisation from the time they get off the bus through the warm-up and through the game. I absolutely expect that to be the case. But at the same time, we're confident that we can take that on. We have plenty of strength in the forwards, plenty of pace in the backs. The most important thing for us on Saturday will be how we handle the top 2 inches. If we take the game to Ayr, challenge them, are confident about ourselves, then I think that we can give them a fright. There's no point in tackling this game as a game that we think that we're going to struggle in. It's got to be a game that we look upon as an opportunity, something to set our season rolling in a really meaningful way. So I'm confident that the boys will give it everything. I'm confident that if they have the top 2 inches sorted out, if our attitude is right, then we will do very well.
Ewan Swinton, the Director of Rugby from Gala, and as I mentioned earlier, we'll be having television highlights from Ewan Welsh covering that one for us on Saturday. International 2 then, Berwick travel to Aberdeen Grammar. Now, it's a long trek for Berwick, and let's check in with their forwards coach, Paul Pringle.
So this week we'll be looking to get over what was a very disappointing loss at home to Newton Stuart last week. The game itself went pretty well. The component parts, the forwards, line-out scrums, all operated as we would expect. The defensive structure and shape with the backs was really good. We did have that cutting edge, when we got in behind them. I suppose for me, probably when we've looked back this week and we've discussed it and looked at the video analysis, it's just small tweaks we need to make, but probably one of the key points for me is really around game management. So just making sure, we keep the pressure on, we don't give the ball away cheaply, don't give the opposition, those golden opportunities to attack us. What we're seeing is our fitness is coming through. The last 3 games, we're kind of scoring late on to get bonus points, but what we really want to do is just up that tempo during the game so that we are getting the benefits of our fitness probably earlier in the game, and instead of fighting for last minute bonus points, we're actually we're competitive and we're actually going for the W. So we had a really good week at training, just going over all these things, making sure the lads are invested and they're on the same page as myself and Colin, and just moving forward to this week, which will be a really hard journey up to Aberdeen. We're under no illusions there that it's not going to be an easy task to get our first W. However, the lads they're in the right space. We've got a pretty strong squad. few kind of late fitness issues that we'll get results on tomorrow night, but by and large we'd expect to be in the main unchanged.
Paul Pringle, both looking for their first win, Aberdeen and Berwick. Aberdeen, of course, could send Berwick to the bottom of the table, so it's a vital match for both.
Yeah, I think that it's a big game, and Berwick, are probably a little bit unfortunate to be in the position that they're in. They've had a reasonably good start. They were competitive against Falkirk. They've been on the wrong side of some narrow defeats as well, and just not being able to really, just pick up that victory to give them a little bit of a cushion. And Aberdeen have been growing and growing in the league. Yes, they were defeated by Kirkcaldy last weekend, but they've started to show a little bit more promise, because at the beginning of the season it was quite ominous for them, actually. And, obviously it's a sign of the times at Aberdeen, because they're starting to drop the divisions, but, they'll want to stop the rut at some point, and they'll be eyeing up Berwick. And, it's one of those games that, yes, you'll be aiming to win, but you'll also be aiming to try and steal some points off the opposition. So both sides, Berwick and Aberdeen, will be looking to try and pick up that victory, but restrict them from losing bonus points and try bonuses as well. So it'll be intriguing to see, come the end of that, the games on Saturday, who's propping up the rest of the teams in that division.
Newton Stuart versus Peebles. Plenty of history between these two clubs, of course. And let's hear from Peebles head coach Graham Patterson.
So clearly we're disappointed with the result last Saturday, but it's about not dwelling on the past and looking forward. That's what we said. We know we're a good side. We know that it's going to be a very tough and competitive league, so there's going to be a couple of kind of blips along the road for everybody, I think, and that's what we've got to look at as a positive from that, is taking those 2 points. We're looking forward to the long trip down to Newton Stuart, and hopefully get a good result down there. They obviously have in the past played a pretty expansive game. They like to run the ball about. The weather conditions look as though it's pretty reasonable at the moment, but we'll look to control what we can control throughout that game, and put ourselves in a position to win it. And that's effectively what we're looking to do. Now there's a bit of turnaround in players. James Dow picked up an ankle injury on Saturday there, so he's unavailable. Neil Pate is away on holiday, and Roddy Guinea is preparing to depart to go on his adventure to Australia for his new life over there. So we wish him well, and hopefully we can send him off with a victory as well. But that gives a chance for other guys to come into the squad, to prove themselves, to give themselves an opportunity to play at first 15 level if they haven't played there regularly before, or not at all before. So let's see it as an opportunity for these guys to show us what they can do under the pressure of this game, which will be no easy task. We know that. The light at the end of the tunnel is we get a week off after that, so let's reassess ourselves. That's what we're looking to do after this first block of 6, third of the way through the season, and we'll see how we are after that. But looking forward to Saturday, and hopefully it's a good bus trip home, a long bus trip home from Newton Stuart on Saturday evening.
Graham Patterson, well, we saw the first wobble really from Peebles last week. Newton Stuart, of course, are also improving all the time, up to 3 wins.
Yeah, I bumped into Graham Patterson on Sunday and just speaking about a few things, and it just happened that we were speaking about the performance and, the disappointment of the defeat against Lasswade, a game that he felt Peebles should have and could have won. It just gave Lasswade a little bit too much respect, and obviously a little bit of ill-discipline coming in there as well. But then on top of that, looking ahead to Newton Stuart, it's one of those games that, it's tricky. I watched the game back last year. It was a live stream, and it's a difficult place to play. It's a really open field. It can be quite blustery as well. So, Newton Stuart are quite comfortable in home surroundings. So it's a difficult game to try and bounce back and get on the horse again and try and compete towards the top of the division.
So we're live on Rugby Radio from 2:30 tomorrow, coming to you directly from Poynter Park for Kelso against Selkirk. We'll have TV highlights of that game, and also Gala against Ayr over the weekend on Borders Rugby Television. And don't forget to check out our new Scottish Club Rugby podcast, which is out now. There's the new website, of course, rugbyradio.co.uk, and of course our main site for everything to do with Borders Rugby at bordersrugby.net. Do check it all out, and we'll see you on Rugby Radio tomorrow at 2:30. But for now, from Dale and me, good night.